Welcome back, everybody, to Real Time for the Real Everyday Movie Fan. I am Josh Williams.
And I'm James Sheridan.
Thank you guys so much for joining us here today. You clicked on the video, you know what we're about to talk about. We're about to give you our real-time spoiler review and breakdown of The Last of Us Season 2, Episode 4. And man, it was an interesting one. Let's put it that way. There was one scene, of course, that was straight out of the game, which was a very beautiful scene. We will talk about that. But before we get into that, guys, please what's that?
Technically, that's not. It's an optional thing in the game, so a lot of people miss that.
Yeah, it's an option if you chose to. But I love that scene. Please be sure to subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell to receive all of our great content here on Real Time. And also, this is your spoiler warning right here. If you have not seen the episode or the game or anything like that, you're going into it cold turkey and why are you here? Like, seriously, stop. You're crazy. Go back and watch the great episode. My daughter's about to come probably tell you to subscribe to the channel.
Yeah, subscribe.
Yeah. And go back, watch the episode, and we will come back. You come back to us and join the conversation. We will be talking about everything that's happened up to this point in the TV show and in the game. We will not spoil anything for you guys. We will try our best not to. We kind of let one thing slip last week, but hey, we're only human. We're not perfect. You know what I'm saying? But James, very, very good episode. The set pieces were astonishing. All right, well, I'm gonna start. I'm gonna let you hit it off with us this time because I started off last week. What did you think of this episode?
I mean, I don't want to keep beating this dead horse, but if you've watched our recent reviews for Daredevil, you know that pacing was a big issue with me. That is not the case in this show. We are on. It's each episode so far has been very sort of different. We had the first episode where they kind of bring us into things, update us on what the status quo was, and then the second episode they absolutely shake up that status quo and absolutely devastate us on many levels. Third episode is sort of dealing with the emotional repercussions and character development kind of coming out of that, and now this is like full steam ahead on plot and where the story is going for the rest of this season and beyond this season, because they're already setting stuff up for the next season, which is going to be fascinating. This was an interesting episode, not just in terms of the development of where Ellie and Dina are and what they're doing. A lot of development in their relationship with each other in many different levels, and the introduction of the leadership of the Wolves, played by the incredible Jeffrey Wright, who played the character in the game, but gets a much meatier role in this version of it. So glad to see him return, because that man has one majestic voice, and I love hearing him talk. He could talk about, dinnerware and pots and pans till the cows come home, and I would gobble up every minute of it. So seeing his character, where he came from, and it's an interesting arc with him specifically, because we see him start out in this place of like sort of he's in the Fedra truck and he's admonishing this sort of inhuman way that the soldiers are sort of talking about the people that they're sort of governing and whatnot. And when he's faced with the citizens of Seattle not being happy with the way Fedra's kind of reacting, he immediately just turns on the Fedra guys, just chucks a couple grenades in the truck, locks it up, murders them all. And then fast forward, we see him even more inhumane in how he is dealing with this scar that he has captured and is interrogating and trying to gain information on, when the next scar
what a
attack is gonna be.
scene.
Astonishing scene, just amazing performance on both of their part. And the escalation of, like, he's got the upper hand the entire time and he's torturing this poor man.
But the man's faith does not shake, and he just like,
he's not shaken. He's so devout in his belief in I don't even remember what they refer to them as, the prophets, I suppose is the term. That when Jeffrey Wright comes back with the frying pan again to torture him again, he just
holds out
immediately puts out his hand, and he's just ready for it, and just
At that point,
completely
he knew
destroyed.
At that point, he knew there was no point in even continuing.
Yeah,
He wasn't gonna get anything out of this guy. And
But-
it shows, like for me, like his performance was amazing. Jeffrey Wright's performance was amazing. I'm not taking away from him. He's a powerhouse actor. But the guy, I don't even. They talked about his name in the behind the scenes stuff. I forgot the actor's name, and I do apologize. If you guys know, jump in the comments and let us know. His performance was it sold the whole scene. The vulnerability, the devoutness he had to his religion, like all of that, like to the
But
people,
also-
everything.
more to the point I was trying to get at, seeing the Isaac character and where he is now versus where he started.
Yeah.
That juxtaposition between those two scenes. This is why I love this game and this show, is that they really kind of dig deep into those things and explore sort of in this sort of post-apocalyptic world, this sort of zombie adjacent scenario, why certain characters become who they are. And like we don't get a lot of the in between like literally in between those two scenes, but like they give you enough meat to work with to kind of like fill that gap in yourself and just see how frightening this human being is and what a menace he is going to be from
It's-
here on out.
It's
Not
kind of
going
the
to spoilers
same.
about what he's doing, but just very clearly this man is a man to be respected and feared.
It's kind of the same what they did with Joel. Like in the very beginning, and then you have all this huge time jump, and then there's all these stories about Joel and what he's done, the horrible things he's done, and this and that. Like you get more of that in season 2, and you're just like, it makes your imagination run wild about
Yeah.
what these people have been through to make them become who they become.
And
It's
it's
a-
such a great introduction to this character that is going to be important from here on out. I'm not going to say why or how. I think most people can kind of put it together that this is not a nice person.
No,
But he is a significant figure. A lot more sort of mythical within the game, where it's like he's referred to, but we don't really see him that often. So I'm very glad that, especially with an actor like Jeffrey Wright,
Yeah.
they're giving him a lot more to do, and I'm like, I'm here for this.
it was
and
very
then-
interesting. I forgot the actor's full name, but the guy from Josh and Drake he got a little
Yeah.
cameo in the beginning there, which is a really good scene. He was just a cool, good for him to see. I think the last time I saw him was Oppenheimer, so it was good to see him get a little something going on there.
And here I am thinking in my head, boy, Nickelodeon's really fell off, where Drake from Drake and Josh is just this absolute menace of a human being. And last episode we had Dora the Explorer, just going full out with the map and the boots and the backpack and all that. And
Right, which was one Easter egg we didn't realize was actually because she played Dora and Dora the Explorer, and yeah, it's kind of the same thing. It's very funny.
which was kind of disconcerting this week when we see Dora getting a little intimate.
a little bit.
I was not ready for that.
That where I'm used to seeing that she's the Ellie. She's from Game of Thrones. I grew up watching. Like you
Yeah.
watch her from how young she was in that show. It's like okay.
Yeah. But they're both grown adults and they can do as they please. And
Yep.
they did, and just I was not ready for that moment.
Yeah, for sure. But even the beginning of the show, the beginning of the episode starts introduces how they introduce Isaac, and just kind of how they're combing through Seattle trying to find these wolves, and mainly trying to find Abby and her crew within the wolves, which is a very interesting, intricate thing to do. But then we get they find that tower and they're like, "Ooh, let's go check it out at nighttime. Let's go."
That was haunting.
That was haunting. It was such a good set piece too. Great.
What's even
special
What's even
effects.
more horrifying to me is the bodies that were hanging from the roof were they're people.
Yeah,
Like they aren't dummies. It's stunned people who were hanging there
on
and had
harnesses, by the way.
entrails
Not
on
actual.
harnesses.
Not actually. They didn't actually hang these people. No, let's get it right. They didn't actually hang them. That'd be insane.
Yeah.
But they were in harnesses. Like, is another thing behind the scenes they talked about. But just a beautiful set piece, a beautiful moment. Like, you almost
Not
wonder,
about
like,
beautiful, but well executed.
hauntingly beautiful. Like, it just looked beautiful. They looked gorgeous. Like, as far as the cinematic camera shot of itself, just like that wide angle shot. But a little bit before that, I mean, we're kind of breaking this down here. They are in. She's looking for pain meds. And you see her grab something. Doesn't really say what. You're like, there's a plant there. There's gonna be a payoff at some point. I'm just curious what the fuck it is, and ends up being, well, we'll get to it here in a minute. And then that, after they find out it was the Scar people who did this to the wolves, more wolves show up. That was a great tension building spot.
Well, it's also a great build off because the immediate scene after that is that chase through the subway, which is probably one of the more intense action beats we've had so far. Because not only do you have the wolves down there and like they're setting off the flares, which makes the entire scene glow red, this just haunting, horrible red. And Ellie and Dina are trapped in the subway trying to make their way through it as hordes. And like even before that, the moment where Ellie and Dina are sitting there, and she's literally
counting them out.
Off.
And then when she gets after 5, and then she's like, "Oh shit!"
Yeah, no, and they all just show up, and it's like, it's way more than 5.
But if you noticed, there was a little small spot because I had to go back and rewatch it because I was wondering, I was like, how did, like, I just rewatched that scene. I was like, how did the horde just, because a number of people were making a lot of noise. It was the flare burning the cordyceps that was making the horde wake up, which was this is interesting. Again, we're going back to that same thing again with the cordyceps again being, at the town being messed with. And it's just that's what happened. And I love how this whole scene, this whole episode, and most of the episodes, especially this one, it felt very much like a video game, like a cutscene almost, or at least, or that, like in the video game stuff is how you're almost playing the characters. Does that make sense? Like you're not looking through their eyes, but like how it was shot and like going from beat to beat. Felt like a video game.
I also love when they include little mechanics from the game, because obviously there's certain things that are sort of ubiquitous through the game that you're not going to do frequently. But there's a moment where they're in the tower at the TV station and they're being Ellie's got one of them in sort of a chokehold and whatnot, and she stabs him with a knife, which was a common way to subdue them. Sort of subtly in the game. And I love when they bring in those little mechanics and those nods to how you play the game
right
in these things. And then extending off of the subway sequence, we get a chase. Once Dina and Ellie are through there, we get a chase, and probably one of the most important moments we've had yet this season, outside of obviously the attack on the town. I can't remember the name of the town at the moment. And of course, Joel's death is when they're trapped in the turnstile.
Yeah.
And Dina is trapped on the outside. Ellie's trapped on the inside. And Ellie makes a split decision that this thing is going to bite one of us. And then she shoves her arm through to make sure that it bites her. And it leads to this just horrifying moment where we remember that Dina doesn't know.
Yep.
That Ellie's immune, and of course Ellie's supposed to keep it a secret. Nobody's supposed to know. And as far as Dina's concerned, Ellie's doomed.
Yeah,
Ellie's dead, and it's just a matter of time, and she has to kill her. And it's like the emotions that Dina's going through of like, I haven't been able to tell this woman that I'm in love with her, and I am now going to lose her forever.
Which goes back to that scene that we forgot to talk about, which is the music store scene.
I do want to get to that scene, but I want to come back to that later because there's a lot more I want to say about that. But this bite becomes such an important moment because now Ellie has to tell her, and it's both a beautiful thing because Ellie now can trust in somebody, but also it puts Dina in a lot of trouble because now she has knowledge that a lot of people will kill for. Mm-hmm. And we just saw earlier in this episode that there are people who are willing to torture to extremes for information, and information like this is going to be very invaluable.
Yeah.
And we get this sort of standoff in the hotel room where it's the two of them, and Ellie's trying to convince her that she's fine. I'm like, look, I'm not shaking. I'm perfectly still. Where it loses me a little bit is that Ellie could have proven it to her a lot sooner by just lifting her shirt because she has the bite on her stomach. And I thought that that bite on the stomach was going to be the lead into
Oh yeah.
her revealing it to her and saying, "Look, it's healed. I
Yeah.
haven't turned. I've
That's
been
true.
bitten before." Because of course the scar on her arm from when she was initially bitten has been burned and tattooed over, so it's like barely recognizable anymore. Dina doesn't see it until she's like close up and inspecting it. Whereas the bite on her stomach, I felt like was going to be a plot device to reveal this. Because of course there's a big difference between the show and the game, where the show or the game has a mechanic um, relating to spores. And there are constantly sort of pockets and areas where you're trying to maneuver through that will have spores and you have to have masks on. And the revelation in the game comes when um, Ellie's mask is smashed. And of course, Dina starts to panic because as soon as you inhale those spores, you're infected.
Yeah.
Um, and that's not going to happen in the show. So they had to set it up another way. And from the time they bit her on the stomach, I could have sworn that that was going to be the plot point she was going to use to prove it to her rather than um,
Having to wait.
going through the whole mask and spore thing. But they didn't do that. And I'm curious why they would set that up and then not use that as a like reason or way to tell her. Um, and of course, once they do have that revelation that, um, I'm going to be fine and everything's fine, Dina immediately just blurts out, "I'm pregnant."
Yeah.
And we get this
It's,
sort of shocking revelation that Dina is pregnant. And, of course, this ties back to her relationship with Jesse, but um, like these two have just barely confessed their love to each other and they're
Right.
already talking about like settling down and having a family and whatnot. And it's
which
like,
would be very interesting because they're gonna settle down and have a family. Is it like all three of them gonna like it's because it's Jesse's the
There-
father
there's a
biologically.
big question about that, but
You know.
um, it, I don't know. I just love the like last episode. There were a lot of people who were very upset that they seemed to be playing kind of fast and loose with this relationship, when it's very clear that there is a very strong chemistry between these two characters.
Yep.
And a sort of will they, won't they kind of thing. And then this one, it's oh no, they will, they absolutely will, on the floor in a rundown
Hotel.
movie theater. Can I just say, stepping off of this, I wish we still had theaters like that. I know there are always these rundown places that are
I
like,
thought it was a hotel.
no, it's a movie theater.
Oh. Huh.
They're in the lobby of a movie theater. I mean, we don't go actually into the theater, but there's a huge marquee out front, which is where they run into. But it's like
I didn't see
those
that part.
old style, like majestic theaters. I wish we
Mhm.
still had, like, I don't know, maybe I know they exist in some towns and whatnot, but like it's a dying breed. And it's like, I know
Yep.
the megaplexes are the thing now, but it's like, God, I just like, if I was rich, I would just buy one, restore one, and just lose money running old movies in a place like that just to have the thing still there, kind of thing. And
Old
use
new,
it for
I
stage
would do
plays and
old and
stuff.
new movies. I do both.
Anyway, that's complete other side tangent. I
Right.
love the development of the story, and as you alluded to earlier, there's this gorgeous scene, which in the game you can skip entirely, and a lot of people miss this, but where Ellie finds this just pristine, gorgeous guitar.
Yep.
It just needs a little bit of tuning, and she starts performing "Take on Me," and it's just. We haven't talked much this season about the production design, but the production design, especially in the like decayed cities and whatnot, where like nature's taken over again. We talked about the giraffes and whatnot, but like her sitting in this sort of like
Bed of
she's sort of like curtained by these like vines on the wall and whatnot around her, and there's like an open spot where there's like this beautiful light coming in, and Dina sits in front of her and she serenades her to "Take on Me" by Aha. Um, and it's like you said, this sort of like key sort of turning point moment for them, where they're like both prior to this kind of confused about what they're going to
Yep.
do from here on out, and it's like this kind of cements it for them. And it's not just the moment, and like I absolutely love this song. So hearing that and hearing it played so beautifully um, was just wonderful. But again, the production design of the imagery of this scene was just so well done. And um, I love that they understand that sort of aesthetic from the game and have brought it to life so beautifully and so authentically. And then
Plus, it
she just
also
leaves the fucking guitar there, and it's like, at least put it back in the case so it's like not in the weather. Come on.
right, yeah, like the camera movement, the overall composition of the shots were beautiful. The set was beautiful in that spot. Just how she was lit up right there with the bed of beautiful flowers and grass and the walls too.
The way Dina was sort of framed above the neck of the guitar from Ellie's back as
great
she's
shot.
playing, just
Beautiful shot.
beautiful sequence.
And just it also helps with Isabella's Dina's her character, but I just like to call her the actress. But the actress's performance and like just the tears swelling in her eyes and like just that joy of happiness, almost like she fell in love with her right there, kind of thing. It was just a great spot, really beautifully done. I love that scene. Because I was hoping they'd do that since I saw them in the music in the room. Like, ooh, we get to see that. That was a great scene. But it goes back to that, and then of course,
and it's also a beautiful connection to Joel because
that I was
Joel's whole
too.
thing, especially in the first game and leading into the second game, was that he played guitar and he taught her guitar. And a big thing in the game is that you actually get to play the guitar.
Yep.
Like they actually give you chord progression to actually play the instrument and whatnot. As sort of a like quick time event, but the guitar is sort of a repeating motif that you play throughout the game, and it's like,
and it's honestly almost around this time in season 1 where they're walking. It's like when they're walking to head towards Wyoming and Salt Lake, that she asked if he could teach her, and he goes yeah, or if he goes, hey, do you want me to teach her? She goes, yeah, I'd love that. And now we're here again about the same time in season 2, and here she is playing it so well. It's a great moment. Really great moment.
It's just beautiful. And I love that they take the time to do those things, whereas like a lot of shows will just kind of rush to the next thing because technically it's plot relevant, it's character relevant, but it's not really plot relevant. And it's like,
so
it's so important. And I just, it bugs me that it's a missable moment in the game.
Yeah.
So
I found it funny. So like I said last episode or a couple of episodes before in our reviews, I'm hoping they keep to the same beat for beats of the game, but maybe change some things up to keep us surprising, which is kind of how they did with the bite. You know what I'm saying? Like that was completely different, not from the game, which is really cool. So I had thought when they were having this great moment between themselves in this theater, I'm like, oh, the wolves are just gonna burst in, like something's gonna happen. Like I was like, this scene's about to be ruined here in about 2 seconds. And it didn't. It kind of did, but it didn't in a way I was kind of on the edge of my seat. I'm like, oh crap! I just have a feeling this is being set up to be just ruined, and it didn't. It was still. I mean, either way would have been fine. But then we get to the spot where they hear the chaos going on the radio. They go up top of the roof, and they see, which they're having. I'm a little confused, maybe because maybe I'm a little fuzzy on this section of the game still. Of course, they're fighting with the scars, the scars. But when you look out into the distance, because they're like, oh, they heard the name, like, oh, we got it. The Nora will know where Abby is, so they go, we got to get to Nora right now. They go up top, and it looks like either wolves are fighting with each other or they're fighting with somebody with guns because the scars only have bows and arrows.
Nope, incorrect. They do have long rifles that they used.
Okay.
What confuses me is it sounded like there was automatic fire and explosions. So I'm confused as to who is setting those off. I assume it's the wolves. But there's also sort of a contingent, as we established in the previous episode with the... Excuse me, sorry. As we established in the previous episode with a group of scars that were a little less devout to the prophet and whatnot, and while they still aren't using necessarily modern technology, which is one of their things, is that they're not supposed to use, modern technology and all that.
Like Amish.
Sort of like it's supposed to be like nothing that sort of existed before a certain period. I don't remember the exact. It's a little too deep in the weeds of the game.
Right.
And I'm sure they'll explain it in the show a little bit better, but I'm wondering if there is a more militant division within the Seraphites, within the Scars, who are doing these things because we already see that there's sort of two competing philosophies within the group, and we know that the Seraphites have been at war with the wolves for a while.
Yep.
And as they indicated, like, our numbers are growing, yours are shrinking, kind of thing. And it's like the Seraphites aren't exactly losing, it seems. So it's like I don't know how people with bows and arrows necessarily beat armed militants.
Right.
Other than, the obvious analogy would be, Vietnam and sort of hit and run farmer tactics and
Guerrilla warfare.
guerrilla warfare. But like, I have a feeling that there's going to be a slightly more militant side to the Seraphites than we've seen so far.
And then this leads to one of the very interesting scenes for me. Because now that this is established that Dina's pregnant, I had a feeling once that revelation happened and they're wanting to have a family, I had a feeling this would come up, and I think it's going to keep coming up, and it's going to something. I'm not going to say implode between them because their bond is strong, but like all of a sudden, Ellie, she's like, you can, I want you, you can stay here. I can go do this, so you don't have to go.
Yeah.
And like, Ellie's in that point where she's trying to protect him, to protect Dina, but Dina don't need protecting, even though she is pregnant. You know what I mean? Like, Dina's a badass in her own right, and
No, but I do think that there will come a point eventually where, like, I don't think this is going to be the quick journey they think it is.
yeah,
And Dina, at some point, will, if they're out there long enough, will become sort of a liability because she has the child to protect. Like, she's early enough now where it's like, I don't think the child is under much of a threat, but as she gets more pregnant, it's going to become much more clear that, she can't be in the scenario. So I think there will be, out of necessity, a point where they're going to have to separate.
of course. But I mean, it was that fact of like that. To me, that was another plant for later on the season where Dina might just start to get pissed. The fact
And
that
that's where I
protecting
was going, is they might separate, but it may not be an amicable sort of situation. It may not be,
yeah,
they're both on the same page kind of thing. So, but that's hedging on, I have a little bit of foreknowledge, so I don't want to go too far into the weeds on that, but,
we'll see.
it's very clearly something that could be a point of contention, and we'll see where it goes from here. They could skip what I'm aware of entirely. It's not the first time that they've kind of bypassed plot points in the game.
Right. No, yeah, and so now we're actually getting to it's moving along now. I was hoping that we wouldn't have to wait too long for them to, find one of the group, one of the people from Abby's group. So we're pressing along now. So now the next episode we're going to be on that journey of they're going to have to wither through this, find their way through this war zone and not be caught in the middle of it to get to. It's just a very interesting that there's a big war going on between two factions, and they're trying to cut in between it to get to just certain people within that faction because they're just after that particular group. It's a very interesting, it's a very good and interesting, complex way to go about it. And I've been all for it. So it's very interesting. It's gonna be very exciting to see, for me, how they these next new set pieces, these next all these new things moving forward. But now you have also the same factor of all of those zombies are underneath that tunnel. That cage is not going to hold forever.
Yeah.
Which is going to be another interesting part. Like, if these two human factions are at war and all of a sudden a zombie horde comes up, are you just going to keep fighting each other? Or are you going to join forces to deal with that? Like, it's going to be that might play a factor as well. So we'll see. That could be something very fun to find out and kind of go through and explore on a sociological standpoint. You know what I mean? So I love this episode. It was a great episode. It was really great moments of tension, great story developing and character developments.
Yeah.
Definitely a sex scene I was not anticipating, but nonetheless, I kind of got thrown off guard there too. I'm like, whoa, am I seeing? Did I just see what I thought I saw?
I mean, we're
Holy
just
cow.
not used to that in this show, and it's just sort of, it came out of left field, and it's like,
Also, that
Okay, enjoy yourselves,
in that
ladies.
same vein, the torture scene with Jeffrey Wright. I didn't expect to see the dudes, bangers and mash, like full frontal. Like I was like, whoa, we're going there. Okay, I guess we're showing all. I guess now I was like,
Well, that's the funny thing is I was watching it on Crave, which we don't have HBO in Canada anymore, so we have it on a streaming service called Crave, which gets all the HBO stuff. And Crave always has these disclaimers at the front, and they're usually fairly generic. And it's like at the beginning of this episode, they're like sex and nudity. I'm like, not in this show. I'm like, oh,
where? Oh,
I was wrong.
okay. Like when I saw that, I'm like, whoa, okay, we're really going there, aren't we? I guess, aren't we? Holy cow! Okay.
I mean, to be fair, it's an HBO show, and it's like fairly violent and fairly
Of course, and it's
gory.
HBO.
So it's like,
It's HBO. You know that that that's the reason why the show's on there, so they can have the liberties to do so if they so chose. Because
Yeah.
I don't think he was nude just for nude's sake. It's a psychological tactic to
Yeah.
deprave someone of everything like that, like of clothes, of everything. It's a
Yeah,
it's a
to put
form of
him in his
mental. It's a
most-
form of psychological warfare. Honestly.
yeah, to put him in his most vulnerable
Yep.
possible situation. And
So it
Didn't
makes
bother
sense.
him in
They
the
weren't just
least.
doing it for shock value's sake. If you think about it, it's a form of psychological warfare. So.
Mhm.
Made sense. I just it caught me off guard completely. I was
Yeah.
like, "Whoa, okay." But any last
Yeah.
minute thoughts before we wrap up here, James? What are you looking forward to for next episode?
oh, I didn't even catch the teaser for next episode, so I'm not quite sure what's going to happen. But I don't know. I'm quite enjoying this season so far. I said that last season too. Even on some of the low episodes, like there was still a lot to enjoy, and like I don't think we've had a low episode this season so far.
Yeah,
Like every episode has been enjoyable for a different reason, and if not enjoyable, then it's been fascinating to kind of explore the story and character that they've been developing. And like, I guess this one's kind of a low point, but it's not even like if like ice cream after cake is a low point for you, then it's like I'm not
It's a good
complaining.
analogy.
This has been outstanding so far, and it's like
it's a good analogy.
I'm
I
so
like that.
happy with the way the show's been going, and it's funny. I figured I couldn't handle what was going to happen after Joel.
Yep.
But I'm actually now that I'm not dealing with I think the game was sort of soured for me by that death, and it's like I couldn't enjoy it after that. And
Right.
it's like coming into this now, having known that it was going to happen, I was already emotionally prepared for it. Now I'm kind of like I've already mourned and moved past all of that to enjoy
Yep.
what they're going to do next. So I'm very much looking forward to where this season goes. I think it's in very good hands, and again, I'm fascinated by how they adapt this series and um, where they're faithful and where they take, um, you know, differing sort of paths and whatnot. And
Right.
it always feels sort of justified when they take it. Not always, but most of the time, it feels sort of justified when they take their sort of branching path and a different choice and whatnot. But it's, I don't know, I'm enjoying it all. So
Definitely.
it's a breath of fresh air and a lot of shitty television.
Yeah. It's certain right. At least right now. Earlier in the year, there was some good stuff. You know, Reacher, some other things. Right now, I mean, Andor's around the corner, right? Or is it already out? now?
Andor's out. I just haven't watched it yet because
Oh.
I want to rewatch season 1. But
Okay. Oh, well, we were thinking about doing an episodic review of that, but maybe we'll just do a season end review of that one. So
that one's a little harder to do episodic because it's
Yeah.
sort of one long movie adventure. So
right. So, but all right,
Anyway.
folks, that'll do us for today. Thank you so much for watching. What did you think of the 4th episode of The Last of Us Season 2? Leave your comments in that section below. Give us your positives, your negatives, and what you're looking forward to for the next episode. Man, I honestly predict by the end of this next episode they will get to Nora. I don't know if we're gonna like see them confront her, but at least they'll get to her. So we'll see. Also, guys, if you like what you watch and you like what we do here, please be sure to subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you can receive all of our great content we have for you here on Real Time. That's all I have for you today. Again, I'm Josh Williams.
and I'm James Sheridan
And thank you for keeping it real.
with Real Time. Good night.